Hello and welcome to the Women Wise podcast. I am Janine Lingenfelder.
And I'm Sara Haboubi, and we are so excited to have you here with us today.
This is your space to feel inspired, uplifted, and deeply connected. Whether you're building a business, finding your voice, or stepping into your next chapter, you belong here.
And a big shout out to our incredible sponsor, Arman Jamula, founder of It's Her Way, UAE's #1 female entrepreneurship hub. It's Her Way has become a thriving platform that supports women in all stages of their business journeys. From providing a marketplace to marketing support and funding resources, they're here to offer the tools and opportunities necessary for success.
And your vision and commitment to women in business is life-changing, and we're so proud to be part of It's Her Way community.
And we're also recording in the beautiful Procast studio at Accredited, Dubai. If you're ever looking for a space that feels professional and powerful, this is it.
Every episode is about sharing stories, lessons, and real conversations that remind us we're not alone, we're in this together. So get comfy, stay open, and let's dive in, because when women rise together, there's no limit to what's possible.
Hello and welcome, Sanaz and Ruthanna Norquay, to the Women Wise podcast. It is amazing to have you guys here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Indeed, amazing. So obviously we're here to hear about your stories and where you come from and how you ended up here in Dubai. So please do share with us.
I've been here almost 8 years together. My first friend was Ruthanna, and we're both Canadian. So we arrived here from Canada. I had a career in science and clinical trials prior to arriving here, thinking I would, soon after find work. But that was a little bit difficult because the region doesn't have a lot of clinical trials in this region specifically. So I went back to school, I studied, and I did my master's in clinical trials. And then I've always been very passionate about health and wellness. Whenever Ruthanna and I would meet, one of the main topics we would talk about is health, wellness, especially after we had our children. You want to know what you're putting in their mouth, where it comes from. So it organically, we would talk about it. And I remember being at work in Canada and going to these events called Lunch and Learn, where you would learn a topic while you had your lunch. So we thought, wouldn't it be great if we started something similar? Instead of going for coffee with, let's say, the Canadian moms, we could just have these lunch and learn events where we bring professionals to teach us a bit about different health and wellness topics.
Wow. And so did you arrive around the same time as Sanaz?
I did, yeah, around the same time in 2017. And I had my first, I now have 4. So we've been busy since we arrived.
Happy busy. Indeed.
And similar to Sanaz, I wasn't able to work here. I also found it difficult to adjust to the balance of having a young family and trying to work. So we made the decision in our family that I would stay at home and, I would, in foreseeable future, take care of them. And Sanaz and I became very close. Our families have grown up together. Our kids are very close as well. And for me, though, I was a little bit of a late bloomer, I guess you can say, in my health and wellness journey. I slowly, started to be interested when I had my first child. But I think, like all your parents, you're looking for answers and you're very concerned about, what you're feeding them from the inside and how that impacts them on the outside. So I was kind of, slowly interested in health and wellness space, and Sanaz and I, would definitely share a lot about what we were doing in our families to help our children. But for me, it kind of really took a shift when I suddenly lost my mom 2 years ago. And in grief, I was looking for a lot of answers, how it could have happened, could we have prevented it? And, I think sometimes the universe comes to you in different ways. And a podcast actually came to me from Instagram, and it really kind of opened up my eyes and my perspective to health and wellness, and really decided from that moment on that I was going to learn more, I was going to listen more, and be a sponge as much as I could around health and wellness, and do what I could to just be more aware and be more, I think, proactive in healthcare. So when this opportunity came, with Sanaz, it just seemed like a perfect time for where I was in my journey and where she was. And, we kind of decided we would do that. And we would invite our closest friends to our first event where we would bring an expert in. The first one was learning about matcha and the health benefits around matcha. And, they encouraged us and said, wow, we're learning a lot. And can you find another speaker? Wow. And we looked at each other at first and we said, okay,
Why not?
This is happening.
Why not, right? Like, let's try. And, we had the time, which we were thankful for.
Yep.
And, went from there. So that was kind of how I came to this point.
That's such a powerful story, and thank you for sharing that.
I was about to say thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing, because it's through this that we get to understand the journey, because we all believe, oh, success just happened like that. Look where they are. No, there's a lot of stumbling blocks and obstacles that we had to go through, especially in the loss of someone close to you, especially a parent, and having to deal with that. This is such an amazing story, and it's beautiful for you to be open and sharing that with us. And I think our health is such a big thing. And what was one of the biggest things for both of you that made you go, we need to talk about this?
I think we felt, in talking with Sanaz, she has more of a, medical background, so she was able to absorb and understand a little bit more, but we both kind of felt overwhelmed by the space. And because I was kind of new in the health and wellness, I felt there was so much information coming from different sources, and especially online, Instagram, even TikTok. And, we would get together and we would say, just her and I saying, wow, there's so much information out there. What are you listening to? What are you reading? And Sanaz always putting her, hat on from, where are the studies coming from? Have they been validated? And we said, we can't be the only ones going through this, feeling overwhelmed, but it's such an important topic. Let's create a space where, we can learn together. And it's so much more powerful when you can do it with others around you and you feel safe to ask maybe the uncomfortable questions. And it's difficult to do that when you're reading a book. You can't ask the author, right? How does this apply to my life?
Yeah.
And she's on a different journey than me, and et cetera. So we said everyone's in their own unique journey, so they can bring their questions to the workshops, they can ask the experts and apply it hopefully back to their life.
No, it's incredible, and I think you're absolutely right. I think there's such a overwhelm in terms of how much information, and also conflicting information.
Yes,
So true.
You could read one study and it says one thing, and you can listen to a podcast and it says something completely different, and you read a book and it's like, oh my goodness, there's now there's multiple views all about the same thing.
Yeah.
So Health Hub is the group that you created, and I love the fact that it is genuinely organic. Like it is an organic organization, and I think that's amazing. So tell us, where is Health Hub now? Like what has your journey been to this date?
Well, we just celebrated in January our 1 year.
Yay!
I think we counted how many
We did
workshops?
33 workshops
33
in 1 year,
workshops
Amazing.
with a
in 1
break
year.
and summer break.
Yeah, so we usually take the summer off, and now we're planning our fall lineup of speakers. And we did one event, which went really well. And the feedback we get is people just want more, because I think everyone's so thirsty for knowledge when it comes to health and wellness. And then it's being evidence-based. So we try our best that when we bring our speakers, that the claims that are being made are backed up by data.
Yes.
And that's one of the things, like you were saying, there's positive data and negative data. But from my training, what I learned was you have to take both, you put them together, and then there's an average weight on the positive and the negative. So you can say, yes, this pill works for cholesterol, because sometimes it doesn't work. So you can't look at just one study. You have to look at the entire spectrum, which is a systematic review and meta-analyses. So for us, it's really important that the workshops that we do is, people can go back informed and make their decisions based on all the data that they get.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a great perspective, and I think with your scientific background, I think that really lends a lot of credibility then to your speakers. So people know when they go, they're like, no, this is not just someone who just wants to kind of sell their latest product and it hasn't been kind of tried and tested, for them. But I think, again, in that opportunity to ask questions because you've got that real person in front of you, and I think that's amazing. So what are some of the things that you have brought then to your workshops? Give us sort of like a taste. I know you've had 33, so we're not going to go through every one of them.
Well, we can tell you our most popular ones.
Sure.
That's it.
Really
Yes,
related
please.
to women's health.
Yeah, very much so.
Perimenopause, menopause. We screened one of the first documentaries that they've done out of the United States with some OBGYNs that are quite popular in online.
Called the M Factor.
The M Factor.
I
That
was
was
there.
a big
Yeah,
success.
yeah, it
Yes,
was
you
it
were
was
there,
brilliant.
Sarah.
Yeah, it
We
was
did
so
it
good.
twice because there was such a demand and we had a wait list. But we've had so many varieties from, naturopaths to functional medicine.
Gut health is another
health.
really popular
Really,
one.
really popular.
Everyone's hearing it in social media, but what does it actually mean?
Yeah.
This is kind of what we like to do is we hear all these, terms out there and, sort of trends, but we like to kind of bring in an expert to actually educate us. What is it, and how does that impact my day to day? And giving them, actionable items that they can take home and apply to their own life. Because it's one thing to read a lengthy book about gut health, but it can be overwhelming, right? And for a lot of our audience, they just want, the quick overview highlight, but then how do I take that and actually apply it?
Yes,
So there's
practical stuff.
Yeah,
that
I think
comes
that
from the
that's really
workshops.
important. So gut health has always been a really
It's
popular
always,
one.
even if we run a poll, gut health will always be one of the top ones. I think also because the research is new, they've only really tapped into just about 2% of our gut microbiome. So it still has a long way to go, but what they know
I
so
didn't know
far is really interesting.
Yeah.
And also mental health has been a focus for us. You sometimes forget that your mental health plays a big role in your wellness journey. Yeah. And if you're not strong mentally and if you're struggling, that really has a stress on your body internally and could lead possibly, to issues down the road. So we've had a variety of experts from mental health, even in terms of parenting and child development, because this also is a stress, right? On our life, there's a lot of worry.
Moving on.
We won't go down that road with me.
But true, the mindset plays a big role. And if your mind is not healthy, it filters through to the rest of the body.
For sure.
Yeah, it's not sitting there isolated from the rest of you. It's connected. Everything is connected. Everything is linked.
The whole person.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but I just keep coming back. I just absolutely love this. I think you've really hit the nail on the head, which is there's so much information. It's overwhelming. How do we find the answers that are right for us?
Yeah.
Because it's not the same for everybody. No two bodies are the same. But if you have an expert in front of you and you're in a group and you hear all these different perspectives and these different questions, when I was there at the M Factor, there were questions. I was like, wow, that's a really great question. I didn't even think about that.
And you learn from each other's questions.
And I think it's so what it appears from the outside looking in is this is very much a community as well. It's not just you guys are running these workshops and then everyone leaves. It feels, like there is this very sort of solid group of fans, I guess, of your work, and it's growing. So how big is is Health Hub?
So on Instagram, we have just over 1,000 followers. And what we love is we have also a WhatsApp group. So to your point, we like to keep those connections and conversations going. So we have just under 300 on our WhatsApp group. And there they have, continued conversations, and they'll ask for questions or referrals to somebody in the health and wellness space, or they're struggling with a symptom. What is sort of a suggestion how to move forward with that? Because we have such a wide spectrum. We have people who are maybe early in their wellness journey, who are maybe more advanced, and then we have a lot of practitioners who are already practicing, and are experts within the field. So we all support each other, depending on where we are, and it's a nice way to keep in touch in the WhatsApp.
And it's a safe space as well. I think people get that from what you guys are providing. So my question would be, how do you get to the topics? Is it from the audience that's in the group, or are you looking at trends that's happening? How do you actually find your topics and creating your workshops?
I think sometimes, just depending on the questions people are asking, we will tell each other there's definitely a need. Let's say for parenting, people are asking a lot of questions on parenting or perimenopause, menopause, but there's so many facets to one topic that you could have multiple speakers just on functional nutrition, on perimenopause. There's a nutrition side, there's a hormonal side, there's the bone density. You learn so much that we basically never run out of topics. So this
No, I can
believe
see that. Yeah, that's a bit like us as well, isn't it? We kind of, we have so many people lined up to interview. It's like,
and a lot of our members actually come and tell us, would be great if you spoke about this topic.
Yeah.
So we take note of everything, and we try to bring someone in who's a specialist in that field.
I love that. Because again, it's really organic. It's not like
Yeah.
you're kind of, you're not the experts. And I think
No,
that's
we're
probably
not, no.
why people love it so much. It's
Yeah.
because you're in the same boat as everybody else. You're
We are.
learning.
We're learning.
You're bringing that knowledge
Providing
in.
the platform for people to come and get educated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And our
yes.
families are learning too. Our children, our husband. He's so much. He even said like, "Oh, now I know what you mean with hormone replacement therapy because we've done so many talks on it." And he's
Yeah, he
our
was there.
IT support.
Yeah, he's almost there.
Indirectly,
He's there a lot.
And that was my next question as well is, I'm sure it's not just the two of you. You have your support team. So as you've mentioned, now your husband is helping out on the IT side of things. And that already gives health to what you guys are doing.
And sometimes we take them for lunch.
Just
As a thank
sometimes.
you. As a thank you. So what would be, in your eyes, the most successful kind of talk that you've given, and in terms of feedback from the audience that really made the biggest difference? What would you say that is so far?
Ilse.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
We've had one speaker, Ilse, who's been back 3 times.
Okay.
Because
By popular
she's
demand.
Very,
Yeah.
Oh,
she's
wow,
quite
amazing.
knowledgeable. She's also from South Africa. And whenever she visits Dubai, we try to organize a talk because everybody
Do you know
is
her?
very interested in speaking to
Come on,
her.
you're South African. You should know everyone from that.
It's like, no, not yet.
So what does she speak about?
So she's done mold toxicity. She's done a
Children's
talk
nutrition.
on children's nutrition. And her first one was, I think, functional nutrition that she spoke about.
Those are big topics.
Huge,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And I think also she brings a lot of personal. So she's really good at sharing her own journey in her health and wellness journey. So people can relate, and she has young kids and what she went through with getting them to be healthier. So I think that adds a lot of connection, right? People want to connect with the
100%.
speaker. And I think that's also maybe why she's so popular. And she's very willing to share, her knowledge and her insights and her suggestions.
Very
and
kind person.
Yeah, she's a very kind person. So we really enjoy having her in
we
our
need to
group.
book in next time she's
Yes.
here, definitely.
Yeah.
We need to book her in. We need to talk to her. I think we need to bring her on here.
And I think the M factor was really popular
Yeah.
around menopause. I think anything around perimenopause and menopause, screening the M factor documentary here was, really exciting for
You were the
us.
first ones. You were
We were the
the
first
this was
ones,
the,
yeah.
the premiere.
And, you could tell by just the attendance, we were full in both of them
That's
at max
amazing.
capacity. So
But it's been a hot topic.
I was going to say it's a hot
Yes.
topic.
Yeah.
It's
Very
definitely, it's literally a hot topic.
Yeah, it is.
with the
For me, it's my brain.
the hot flashes. Yeah. So what do you think has happened since 2020 in terms of health and people? The change. Have you seen a change yourselves? And I know you've only been going a year as Health Hub, but do you think that's really played a factor in people wanting this information?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there was such a big scare with COVID and the lockdowns. And then just this fear of death, fear of unknown, what will happen to me if I get COVID? But I think that people became much more, they looked into how can I be healthy and to make sure that, I don't get the virus and get ill from it.
And I think just Instagram also has taken off, right? It's become a really popular space since then because people spent more time indoors. They've adjusted careers. People are working from home. There's more influencers now than ever. So I think that rise in, information has made people say, okay, there's a lot of talk around gut health. Maybe I should listen and pay attention about what's happening. But again, it gets overwhelming because you hear it from so many different sources and, how do you impact it in your life? I think that's a challenge, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know from a personal point of view, I realized in 2020 that I had a sort of a hidden, even though I thought, I'm taking responsibility for my health and my education and, everything else, that I realized that at the back of my mind, I did have this thing of, but if I get really sick, I'll just go to the doctor. And I think for me personally, there was a big shift, which was, I want to avoid that as much as possible. What can I do to really take that full responsibility for myself and my family as much as possible. You know, I've got teenagers, so they won't let me. But I think that for me feels like that's the space that we're in now. I think a lot of people have gone, hang on a minute, there is no magic pill. There's nothing really out there. It's all inside. And then literally the gut is obviously the deepest, possible way we can kind of get there. But yeah, I think it's really, really amazing. So what's your next step? I'm not going to say ultimately where you're going, because I think that's a very big question.
What's your 5-year plan? But no.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? But
exactly.
what, obviously it's organic. It's kind of unfolding. So what is unfolding in front of you right now?
What's unfolding? I think for us, we'd love to do, more events. We'd love to bring, having multiple speakers at once even. We had a lot of great success when we did our first event by having 5 experts, because it's kind of really condensed in like a 2.5 hour, session. You're hearing from, 3 to 5 experts, and, they're short presentations, but they're, informative enough that you can then apply it again back to your life. And our time is so valuable and so precious. So we found there was a lot of interest in doing that and having not just one speaker, which is normally what we do in our workshops. It's one speaker at a time. So I think we'd like to do, some more of those next year. And I'll let you add what else we'd like to do.
We're always talking about these, scientists that are on Instagram giving us a lot of information that are evidence-based. So one of our goals, maybe in the next 5 years, would be to have someone, someone such as Peter Attia, Andrew Huberman. These are common names that we hear in our community, because everyone's listening to the same style of podcast, because they're doctors or PhDs that are simplifying and making it easier for people to understand these big scientific, terms or studies that come out. So that would be probably a goal of ours, is to have someone. My favorite is Jason Fung, if he's listening.
You're putting it out.
Putting
You're
it
putting it out
there.
there.
I've
So
tried to message
if you're listening,
him, but no response
absolutely.
yet. But he was really the very first doctor. So he's Canadian. He's a hepatologist, and he sees patients who are at the end stage of diabetes. And I just read all his books. I devoured them, and he was really into fasting, and I absolutely liked the science behind it. So I would always tell Ruthie about Dr. Jason Fung. So he's one of the,
if you're watching.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also relatable because he's coming from Canada. There's that's the connection
and he's passionate about what he does. So
so are you ladies.
Yeah,
there's a connection.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can really see the authenticity here, and I think that's what really drives people now. I think that we're looking, everyone's looking for that, like, why are you doing this? Like, what is your big kind of, why for this? And, you can really see, first of all, your friendship is very evident, the love you have for each other, but also for health and wanting to share that, I think is incredible. What do you think would be the biggest challenge that you faced to date, and how did you overcome it?
I think sometimes it's the time. It takes a lot of time to, we really spend a lot of quality time researching who we want to bring in next to our community. And that takes time, right? And we have a family, and that's, our priority. And so fitting that in and finding the balance, right? Like a lot of working moms, it's difficult to sometimes find the balance. So I would say the number one is probably just the time, is, the time that it takes. And because we are so passionate about finding, the right fit, and we spend time meeting the speaker and spending time understanding their message and their background, that time would probably be the most. But somehow we make it work.
Yeah, we plan it. I think it's much easier when you have, someone that you enjoy working with and that you get along with so great, like yourself.
It
makes
true.
a big
Interesting.
impact, a big difference for sure. Because if this is not healthy, it's going to portray in your messaging, in the way you do things.
So true, yeah.
But you're sharing it. You're sharing, and it's the sum is greater than the whole. I mean, it's is that right? Did I say that the right way? No,
It sounded good.
Yes,
well,
I agree.
I think everyone. I was like, my brain just went. Completely went out the window.
In terms of what's still left of 2025, for the next 3-4 months, what workshops are coming up? What can people expect in the next 3-4 months?
So we've just announced our lineup for May, and we're starting off with oral healthcare. So we have a hygienist from a bioclinic coming in to help us about our overall health within our mouth, and even breathing at night and how that can impact you, and also talking about fluoride and toothpaste and, you know, that impact as well.
Big controversy around fluoride.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk around that right now.
Interesting.
Will we pull that thread here, or do you want to wait for the tool?
Well, to be continued. We'll keep you.
Yeah, we'll let you there.
And she'll even address the oral microbiome. So you have in your mouth as well, which communicates with the rest of your
So
body.
interesting.
Yeah.
And again, people go, yeah. And I think when you see the titles, you're like, of course that's important. You know, you wouldn't necessarily have thought it, or again, know where to find the right information.
That's so true.
Yeah. So, okay, so what else?
And
We're
then we
all
also
ticking, we're ticking here.
Yes, okay, I need to open diary.
We also have one learning about social media, and specifically focusing around Instagram. We hear a lot of discussions in our workshops about, because a lot of them are small business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and everyone needs to have a presence online and Instagram, and it can be overwhelming and sometimes stressful and intimidating, and that can also have an impact on your mental well-being, right? If you're feeling the stress and I'm not quite sure how to navigate Instagram and what do I do? So we said, okay, there's an opportunity. Let's alleviate some of that stress and that worry from the community, and let's bring in an expert that can help.
I love that. That's amazing.
Give us some strategy and some
That
focus.
stress is very close to my heart. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel that pain. Yeah. No.
As she was talking, I can feel it's like,
Instagram. You're meant from the word Instagram. It's like,
but it's a big thing for most people
It is, yeah.
It's very intimidating, but it shouldn't be. It is actually a fun platform. And is that happening in May as well? Or is
Yes, May as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm telling you, tick.
It's exciting.
And then, do you want to
Then
share
we
the last
have-
two? We have two more.
So we have another person coming in, also a Canadian woman, who's going to talk about gut
You're
health.
not biased by any chance.
You know, we're not.
No, the people are coming to him.
We didn't know she was Canadian until we got to know her.
Yeah, I believe you.
It was just by chance. But she'll talk about gut health.
Yeah.
And she'll even demonstrate how to make kefir, which is the fermented yogurt or milk for your gut. And then we also have we've started to introduce workshops where we bring in some of our community members who are doing specific things such as candle making or what else have we done?
We've done Reformer
Pilates. So someone will come and do a very clean candle, which just has beeswax and essential oil, just 2 ingredients. So that's one thing we'll do. And then on the 28th of May, that's the World Period Day. So there'll be one of our members who will talk about your period, your menstruation cycle, and how to help you with your iron and some of the vitamin deficiencies that you may have during that for those 5 days that you're menstruating.
Yeah, you're covering all bases. This is
We
I love
have
it.
a packed schedule.
Yeah.
Schedule.
Obviously, people might be watching this and it's already passed. Where can people find you then? Where is your Instagram the best place to find you? Like that's kind of the main
that would
thing.
be the main
Health
one.
Hub DXB.
Health Hub DXB. Well, we'll have the links below the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Go
Thank you.
wild and share. And just
you.
last question: some of your workshops, are they open for teenagers and young adults, or is it just for adults specifically?
Yeah, no, we don't have any age restriction. Most of the topics would be open to anybody who's open to health and wellness. So we have had some, younger attendees who are starting their health journey, and we welcome that. I think that's great to learn at a young age.
Yes,
absolutely.
And it's really important that we have those conversations. So by all means, we would love to have anyone younger join us.
fantastic.
Well, that was your last question. My last question is if you have, each of you, one piece of advice that you would like to give our viewers, what would that be? So Sanaz, we'll go to you first.
I would say to start young.
Too late.
No, for anybody, or start at any time, just start, because your health is the most important thing that you'll have. And we are so caught up in life that, you blink and you've passed a decade quickly, you've had children, you're busy. But the number one thing that you can do for yourself and for your family is to take care of yourself. So get informed, read as much as you can, try your very best to eat healthy, exercise, not just weightlifting, but cardio. So it's the body as a whole is a miracle. It knows what to do if you treat it right.
I love that.
And Ruthanna, what's your one bit of advice you would give?
The one thing I would say would probably be to be proactive. So don't wait until you have severe symptoms. You know, be checking your health on a regular basis, and you know, you start with things as basic as your blood work. You know, but you can also go to a variety of specialists out there who can dive a lot deeper into what your blood work is telling you, and know your numbers. You know, these are important stories that they're telling, and what's happening. And early signs can happen, you know, 10 years before a severe symptom will come up. And for me, it's being proactive. Would be my number one advice.
There we go.
Great
Just
messages.
start
Amazing.
and be proactive.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, for being here, but
Thank
more
you.
importantly, for actually setting up such a safe, authentic community where, in an era where there's so much information, you know, to find something that can cut through the noise and really work for individuals, I think is incredible. And,
you.
you know,
Thank
we
you
really
for having
commend you, you know, on what you've done so far. And we look forward to
All these
many years of
workshops.
HealthHub and workshops
Absolutely.
and
Thank
seeing
you.
more of you. So I'm sure we'll get you back on the show at some stage.
you very much.
Maybe
To
after
be
your
continued.
second, maybe after your second birthday, we'll see what had unfolded
We would love
Absolutely.
that.
We
over
would love it.
2025.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.